Long time no see, everyone. Hope all of you are doing well. The world is changing rapidly, and today I'd like to talk about the importance of a community once again. I'm gonna read my draft if that's okay, because it's not going to be short. But since my mom was mentally fucked up, and I also suffered from heavy depression in the past, which led me to always wonder, why do people get mentally ill, as well as how do people become mentally happier? One of the aspects that makes people happier is, of course, the power of English language, which I've been writing about for years. They're all on my blog, so you can maybe read sometime. However, there is another aspect that I came to realize through my experience of running Cafe Byron Bay for 7 years, meeting heaps of people and talking with them. What I found as a way to become mentally happier is to become a part of a third community other than our family or workplaces. The definition of the English word community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common, which is more like family than friends, as friends don't need to be a group of people in the first place. In general, people belong to two different communities already, which are family and workplace. And what I really felt that people must have in order to gain real well-being in their lives is a third community besides these two. For instance, when I was still running Cafe Byron Bay, when there was a situation where one of the members of staff was being depressed or feeling down, I would ask other members from the community, "Hey, he's feeling down, can you please take him or take her out sometimes when you get a chance?" Of course, I could always take them out by myself. However, because my position for the staff was a boss, I thought it would be different for me compared to others taking them out. Not to mention that every time when I asked people for help, they would just reply by saying, "No probs," and take them out without any questions. Not only the staff, but for instance, when one of the guests from Cafe Byron Bay walked into the cafe crying like hell, it wasn't just me, but everyone who was there listened to her story, discussed about the issue, and seriously considers the issue together to find solutions. For instance, when some people who were usually close had a fight or argument, other members from Cafe Byron Bay community would arbitrate them and try to make peace between them, as it was also their problem. It is difficult to list everything here, but these situations wouldn't have happened if our relationships were on an individual level. All these miracles were only possible because we were a community. For me, most of my friends in general usually belong to different communities, and often this solving the issue together kind of thing doesn't happen. I have heaps of friends, and quite a lot of them are people I met outside of Cafe Byron Bay. Therefore, I never really talk about the things that are related to the cafe or ask them for a favor, like, can you take one of my staff out for drinks? One of the reasons that I feel that the community is very similar to actual family is that even though they're all in the same community, not everyone is as close to each other, unfortunately. Usually friendship is built based on having trust or some kind of chemistry that is hard to describe, but community is different. When we belong to any kind of community, there are usually people who we don't really get along with, but we can still build the relationship by having common interests that apply to all members. We respect each other's differences and work together to help each other when problems occur, which is an amazing aspect of community, really. Even myself, I personally belong to heaps of different communities, including my family, Cafe Byron Bay, the new community of the Global Community Byron Bay that started last month, and the community of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, etc., etc. I can't even list them all, but every time when I'm working on some projects with them, I cannot help but think community really is amazing, and think that one's happiness will dramatically change from my own experience. By the way, one of the main reasons that changed my assumption of maybe having a third community is the key for us human beings to become mentally happier, to the definite belief of having a third community is crucial for us human beings to become mentally happier, was the experience that I had in a small village in Thailand, which I visited in February this year. The reason I went there was to a wedding, actually, of members from the Cafe Byron Bay community. And I'm not going to lie, but the village itself was a sort of financially impoverished place, I'd say. However, all the people from the village looked so happy and had amazing smiles. I've been living in Tokyo, Japan, one of the biggest cities in the world, in a developed country, but a lot of people here, at least a lot of people that I've met, were quite tired and didn't really look happy. No offense, but then when I saw all these people in this village in Thailand, I began to wonder, what is the reason, what is the reason that people here look so happy and are so smiley, even though they're not financially wealthy? And started to observe the people there during my stay. After spending some time with them, what I understood was that the whole village itself was a community, and every single person who lived in the village was protected by the community. Not to mention, the environment they had was far from having a feeling of loneliness, including their parents, brothers and sisters, friends, etc., etc. They were all living in walking distance. Therefore, whenever they stepped outside their houses, they could just see everyone and start chatting right away by sitting by the street or something. Of course, they had a real financial situation, and I'm more than sure that there must be heaps of difficulties that they need to face, which I, someone who just stayed there for a short period of time, cannot even imagine. But still, knowing that no matter what happens, we will always have the community, and having the belief of, if a difficult time comes, the members of the community will always help us, give them the psychological air, and that is the main reason that they are so happy and smiley every day. They were all radiant and bubbly. That is also made me happy by staying with them, even though I had no idea what they were saying. Including Japan, the world is going to change dramatically from now on. This is just the beginning, as you know. I'm not trying to frighten or anything, but as a matter of fact, one of the hardest time in the history is about to start in this entire world. When you live in Japan and watch only Japanese news, it's really difficult to see what is actually happening outside of here. However, the information I gain is all based on reliable sources from America, Australia, England, or heaps of other countries throughout the world. I'm so glad that I can understand English, which helps me make able to understand what is really happening in this world. The whole world is a mess at the moment, of course, and it will get even worse from now on. The virus itself is an issue, however, the worst thing for us is not so much that, but the real economical crash that will occur by having the capitalist society that we all lived in until now completely collapse and face the real economical crisis that will be as awful as Great Depression. Well, this is something that anyone could imagine without getting information from any of the reliable sources whatsoever. There is no way of us to avoid having the Great Depression. Then the question is, what should we do to prepare for that? And my answer is not to buy up all the masks or toilet rolls, but become a part of a third community where you can ask for help and start building relationships from this moment. Because it is true that even if we run out of money, lose our jobs, or lose our places to live, if we have the community, if we have the people who we can reach for help, then we'll be okay. Even if you run out of masks or even food, as long as you belong to a particular community, people will help. just being friends with someone and having individual relationships will have limited possibilities when it comes to help, but the power of a community expands those possibilities to a whole new level. If you don't have any relationships like that now, then please find a community that you feel like you want to become a part of and start building relationships with them. Because I'm not lying, but it is true that when we face the real hard times, it's not the money or the language skill you have that helps, but people. Always. The reason why I wrote or talked about this kind of thing all of a sudden is because when I did research recently into how many people committed suicide in Japan in August 2020, which was last month, the numbers were over 1,800 people. And those were the numbers for suicide notes, which means the actual numbers, including the ones without the suicide notes, would be a lot higher. Since March this year until now, the amount of people who have died from coronavirus in Japan is around 1,200 people, according to our government, which means the amount of people who committed suicide in a month was a lot higher than the amount of people who died from the virus in 6 months, which was really, really shocking to me. Of course, I think that not everyone who committed suicide didn't do so because of the effect from coronavirus. However, we might be able to think that it couldn't be helped if someone died from coronavirus. However, if the reason to choose death was because of financial problems or worries about the future that is not even happening, then I really wish people not to choose that path, but to choose a different way that is out there. I was homeless and living on the streets when I was a teenager. I also lived in a self-sufficient village for a while. Therefore, I actually know how life really is without having any money. And from those experiences, I guarantee that it really is possible to live without having money. As long as we have food, or I would say seed, it is true, we can live without money. I tried and it worked. Because of what is happening in this world, we are now progressing the project to establish the English-speaking village called Village Byron Bay. So, in the worst case scenario, if you ever run out of money or work, then you can all come to Nagasaki Prefecture with us and live together. If you're coming from overseas, then you need a visa to stay, but we can discuss how to solve that issue altogether when that time comes. Like I said, as long as you belong to a community, then your problem becomes our problem, and we will be always there to solve the issue together. This post became way too long, I know, but thank you so much for reading and watching until the end. I really wish that people will find communities that will suit them and keeping living through these crazy times by having each other's back. If you ever feel the Byron Bay community is the one you feel like joining, then that's great. Please don't hesitate to contact us anytime. And if you ever think too much and start worrying about the future and feel like you wanna just disappear, then always remember, in the worst case scenario, you guys will always have the village Byron Bay, so no worries at all. Sorry. Anyway, see you guys all soon. Bye bye.